Hey everybody, welcome back to Disappointing Your Demons. My name is Ron, a grateful recovering alcoholic. So here I am in the car again. It's fine, actually kind of like it because it's nice and quiet and I can be by myself and make these videos pretty much uninterrupted. Anyway, so we're getting there. We're getting there, guys. Couple more days. Couple more days until a year. And man, what a trip it's been. Um, so instead of making one long video, like super long video, I decided to kind of break it up into two parts. And I'm gonna start it off with it. I know I've told my full story before in other videos, and have talked about my use and how much I drank and stuff like that. But I really want to kind of get really deep into it. And maybe I'm just going to be repeating myself, maybe not, or if you're just checking out this video or my channel for the first time, um, maybe you haven't heard it yet. So if I'm rehashing some stuff, I'm sorry, but anyway, here we go. So I want to talk a little bit about just how freaking bad it got and how much I drank. And, I'll say this, when I started drinking, I had my first drink at 8 years old. It was a glass of wine at Thanksgiving dinner, and I had my first drunk at 13 years old. And it just progressed from there. Alcohol literally dictated my life, pretty much right off the rip. Dictated the type of people I was going to hang out with, the type of lifestyle I wanted to lead, what I was going to do for work, and pretty much I centered and I centered my life around alcohol without even really realizing it. But everything had to do with the party and what I could get next. The next, I would get, go out in the woods, go to a keg party, get drunk on the weekends, and then could not wait to do it again. If I was going to go anywhere, there had better been, alcohol and drugs involved. If there wasn't, it wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth it for me to go. And I mean, and that was my life, and that's how it progressed for. What am I? 48 now. So, with a stint of sobriety in there, essentially, minus. So let's just say 30 years. 30 years of revolving my life around alcohol. Even in parenthood, I would revolve my, I would find any chance that I could get to get away from the family and drink, and then eventually I just didn't give a fuck about hiding it, and drank around my kids to excess and set a really, really bad example for what kind of relationship you're supposed to have with alcohol. And God, like, I really can't quite put a finger on the exact moment in my life when it went from, maybe it's just always been a problem. Come to think of it, I've always been a problem drinker. And it's just nuts. Like, and as soon as alcohol hits my bloodstream, like, all bets are off. Like, I just, I freak out, and again, not to say that I didn't have any fun, but especially at the end there, I mean, it went from being fun to basically being a friggin' full-time job to get and stay drunk. And the signposts were all there. My friends, jokingly or not jokingly calling me a drunk, or saying that I was an alkie. Even in high school, Ron, he's a freaking alkie, But, we all joke around, and of course they're all sitting there in the woods drinking with me. So, am I really the alkie? Well, I mean, yeah, obviously. But at that time, I was like, oh no, I'm just doing the same thing that all my friends are doing. And like, again, like I don't, it, it it just became like the lifestyle, like a life. It was the life that I led. And I think I've said it before. When I ended up in detox after my my ex-wife gave me the heave-ho, I remember walking through those doors of detox, going, "Yeah, this makes sense. This makes absolute sense." And I still didn't get it. I mean, I got it a little bit. It was it planted the seeds of knowing that there was a way out. But at the time, like, man, like, and I seen other people, like other that were considered alcoholics, or that I considered like what the stereotypical alcoholic should be, and I was thought, I'm not as bad as them. And then friends start dying from this shit, and I'm like, oh well, I'm not as bad as them, or we'll sometimes go to a funeral and be like, better you than me. Now, that sucks. That sucks to say, but that's what it was. But as far as, I mean, there was a point in time before I got sober the first time around where, like I talked about before, I would literally go from one liquor store one day in the morning, finish off what I bought there, and then go to another liquor store at night, drunk as fuck, to get more, because I needed more for the next day, and I needed more for the rest of the night, and I went all around pretending like trying to pretend like I wasn't an alcoholic, trying to pretend like fool all these people, like, oh, if I go to different liquor stores, they'll never know that I'm an alcoholic. And of course, I'm sure they all freaking knew I come in stinking of booze, So yeah, it was literally a full-time job. But as going to fast forward, because you all heard my story before, but to the island. Let's pick up me getting to the island. And as I said before, it was literally it was literally the second I stepped off the plane. I picked up that shot at the airport. And then it was 4.5 years that it took me out. 4.5 fucking years of literally, well, I shouldn't say literally binge drinking. At first, so all right, let me collect my thoughts for a second. At first, they say it's a disease of progression, right? And from my own personal experience, what happens is after you quit drinking for an extended period of time, and then you start drinking again, you don't pick up where you left off. You pick up where you should have been had you continued drinking. And to an extent, that is true. In my experience, that is true. After that first shot, I was off and run, but it didn't take me as many drinks to get drunk or get a buzz going, and then I was trying to control it. And there's no controlling it. Like, maybe a little bit at first, but it quickly takes control of you. And so it started off with I'd buy a 6-pack, and I would have a few beers, a couple beers one night, or I'd go to the bar after work, have a few beers with my friends, and then go home and be okay. I would say, that's enough. But from many different factors, the lifestyle down on the island being one of them, but also my own personality and my own addiction, my own alcoholism, a 6-pack turned into, oh, okay, I'll buy the 6-pack, and then I'd drink the whole 6-pack. And then I would have a few beers at work, and then a 6-pack. And then next thing you know, I'm getting a 12-pack, and I'm having 8 or so beers plus whatever, and I definitely would go to the bar before heading home. And this went on progressively for a while. And right away, it started becoming a problem, causing problems, I should say. When my now ex-girlfriend moved down, because I moved down to the island before, and I told her that I was, that I had been drinking. Of course, she was worried, but I promised her, and I told her, no, it's okay, it's not like it was when I was living in the States, and it's acceptable down here too to get drunk, and you can drive with with an open container, and like it's a different lifestyle down there, so it'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Of course, she was like, okay, yeah. And then she gets down to the island, and she's like, well, you're drinking a lot, but when in Rome. But it started causing fights. I shouldn't say it started. It started causing fights because I would lose all my inhibitions, and I'd start getting mouthy, and I wasn't as readily willing to put up with anybody's shit. And the fights started. The arguments started, and before I moved down there, and when I was in the entire 6 years, or however long it was, 6 years that I was with her, I could count on one hand how many times that we actually argued, and I could use even less fingers to say how many times I raised my voice to her, or she raised her voice to me. And even within the first few months of her moving down there, like, we got into more shouting matches than in the entire relationship before. So it's starting to cause problems there. I start behaving in ways that that I thought I had left in the past, but I guess I really didn't. And it started progressing, and it was like, I would get drunk, a few nights a week, and then I would get drunk, every night. And like I said, like 4.5 years. And then it's every night. And then it's getting absolutely fucking lights out drunk on the weekends. And I had, like, my friends come down to visit, and they were on their vacation, and I completely fucking ruined it because I got so freaking drunk. Me and my girlfriend, then we broke up after a huge blowout. I basically ditched my friends, like, kind of left them to their own devices. It was just a fucking shit show. And so then after me and my ex-girlfriend break up, I'm really going on a tear because now I have no adult supervision. None. Like, I'm literally left to my own devices. I'm making a really good living at the shop that I work at, so I got tons of money. I've got tons of free time. And here I am at this time, so it was 4.5, so I'm 44 years old, living like I'm a freaking college kid. Drinking, drugging, cocaine went hand in hand with my drinking. And honestly, like, not to sound like a pig or nothing, but I screwed my way all across that island. Tourists, girls who lived there, just being a total man whore. Freaking, and the drinking just kept getting worse. I mean, towards the end of it, I'm literally all right, I can barely remember half of, maybe even less than, because you don't know what you don't know, right? I can literally remember like hardly, maybe let's just call it a quarter to a third of the time of my time on that island. Most of it was literally spent in a blackout, on the weekends and stuff. And people would tell me things that I would do. I would get so drunk I would forget where I parked my car. I would open my eyes and I would pop one eye open, and I would joke about this at work and with my friends, and I would pop one eye open and look and make sure I was home, and I'd be like, oh, thank God I made it. And thinking that was normal behavior. And it's not normal behavior. It's not normal behavior. And I knew it wasn't normal behavior, but I thought, I lied to myself and said it was normal behavior. So this goes on for a couple of years, and I had some brief periods of sobriety, or at least not drinking, that I'll get into in a few. But I would literally get so drunk, like I would fall down in public, like, and again, not an uncommon thing down on that island, but that doesn't matter. Just, it's like your mother says when you're a kid, if everybody else jumped off a bridge, would you? Well, apparently I will. A metaphorical bridge, sure, but bridge nonetheless. And as I always say, it's not, when you hit rock bottom, it's not the fall that hurts, it's the sudden stop at the bottom. So yeah, and I just kept right on going. Like, I didn't think that there was anything wrong with what I was doing. I was acting like a total dirtbag, and I didn't give a shit. And freaking, people would fucking say shit to me, and jokingly would be like, freaking Ron, like, you went kind of nuts this weekend, or you went, when you're on an island full of people who drink a lot, and they're telling you that you're drinking too much, maybe you should take a pause and freaking look at yourself and think and say, okay, maybe there's something that I need to do, because if they're telling me I'm drinking too much, then I'm drinking too much. And in the meantime, through all this, I meet my wife. I meet Stephanie, and I was a total fucking asshole to her. I treated her so poorly. Like, I look back on it now, and I'm like, man, like, I don't know why she's still with me. I'm happy that she is, but I don't know why she's still with me, because the shit that I did, the shit that I pulled, the way that I was acting, the things that I was doing and putting her through, and everything was like, if somebody was doing that to my fucking daughter, I'd fucking kill him. If it ever got back to me, I would freaking kill him. That's how bad I was. Like, I wasn't whacking her. I wasn't like, slapping her around and nothing. But, the mental abuse, the the bullshit. Like, no woman should ever have to deal with that crap. And I guess she must have seen something good in me, because she stuck by me. But anyway, so the drinking. Towards the end of my drinking, on a normal day, I was waking up. I was putting Baileys or vodka in my coffee or whatever the fuck I had, laying around, just to be functional, just to stop the fucking shakes from coming on. And I would sneak booze into my coffee during the day. I was drinking on a normal Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever the fuck, about a 30 pack a day, plus about a pint of vodka, or whatever hard liquor I was feeling like drinking at the times. Sometimes it was tequila, never whiskey. But it was usually beer and vodka, and that's on a weekday. Now, I've said before that I made a decent living, and I did. Still do. I guess that's the one saving grace of having a trade and being good at what you do in a trade. And if I was anywhere else, if I was stateside, if I was anywhere else but the island of St. John, I would have been fired within weeks of when I started getting really bad. But anyways, towards the end, again, drinking about a 30 pack a day. My wife even said to me, she said, you drink more than someone twice your size. And I remember thinking, ha ha ha, that's funny, thanks. And she's like, that's not a compliment. Like, that's not, but that's what it was. And people would even pull her aside and be like, he's got a problem. Like, are you sure you want to be with him? And her only response ever was, I know, but I love him. So on a normal day, I'm drinking a 30 pack a day, roughly, sometimes less, sometimes more, pint of vodka. But I hit the weekend, Friday nights, holy crap. Like so many weekends I don't remember. I was literally spending, and I'm not lying, $1,300 a weekend on booze and cocaine. Not to mention the shit how much I was spending on drinking during the week. But I remember every week I would look at my bank account on Monday and it would be like so low, and I would see all the charges. That's how I would kind of retrace my steps for the weekend. A lot of times is look at my bank account and see where I used my debit card. I would see $200 pulled out of the ATM, and then because some of the bars down there are cash only, and then drug dealers don't take fucking credit cards or Venmo, so you need to get cash. But that's how I would retrace my steps. And then fortunately I made enough, I had enough to pay my rent at the end of every month. But literally, I'm not lying, guys, when I said in the 6 years that I was down there, I blew through over $500,000. $500,000 fucking dollars gone. Yep, I had to pay rent. Yep, I bought food. Yep, I paid my child support. But $500,000 just gone. Zero, zilch, nothing. Squat. That's a lot of fucking money. But that's not even the fucking worst of it. Money's money. You can't take it with you, right? But then my mental health really, 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 like I was poisoning. I was not sober a single day, probably a year and a half after my last little, probably month or 2 month long thing of sobriety. The only thing that I can say about my 2 months times here or there is that when my dad passed, I was in the midst of one of my bouts of sobriety. I shouldn't even say sobriety, but bouts of not drinking. And he at least got to have one final conversation. Oh, no, God. At least got to have one final conversation with me. Sober. Not drunk. And he always would ask me, like, Ronnie, how's the drinking? How are you doing with the drinking? And at least that time when I talked to him the last conversation I ever had with my old man, I got to say that, no, I'm doing all right. I've got about a month not drinking. Oh, good, Ronnie, good. And then we had this long conversation where he apologized for everything, and I apologized for all the shit that I did, and he told me he loved me. Well, the last words I got to say to my old man were, "I love you." And then he died, and I think it was actually, I want to say it's probably about a 2.5 year span where I was just drunk every day. But you want to talk about the lowest of the low, the mental health thing. Fuck. I've talked about it before. But the alcohol-induced psychosis. My wife has videos of me absolutely losing my mind. Like, not like, oh, I'm just yelling or I'm mad about something, or no, I'm saying literally certifiable crazy ass shit. Like one time, I think I talked about before, I was so drunk I didn't know where I was even, and I was screaming at the top of my lungs about the Nicaraguans not allowing me to go to the beach anymore, and that the beach people were going to get me. The beach people were going to stop me from going to the beach, and that the Nicaraguans were out to get me. Well, first of all, there's no fucking Nicaraguans on that island, at least that I know of. And secondly, they're all public beaches on the national park. There's not anybody sitting there saying that you can't go to the... Like, what? And then there's other even crazier things that I'll just skip because I don't really need to talk about it. But I would literally go crazy. Like if somebody saw me on the streets acting like that, they would literally have probably locked me up. And even those little bouts was not enough to get me to stop. And for years, my wife would tell you, for years I had been, when I would, not be so drunk, or I'd be like, it'd be like, or even when I'd be screaming, like, I want to get off this island, like, I got to go. But then I don't go, I don't leave. I just keep doing the same fucking thing over and over again. But yeah, even the alcohol-induced psychosis was not enough to get me to stop drinking. It wasn't. My own daughters telling me that if I don't stop drinking, or if I keep drinking, or if whatever the fuck, that I won't be allowed to see my grandchildren. They don't want me in their kids' lives. They loved me, but I wasn't good to be around my grandchildren. That's not an influence that they wanted, and rightfully so. But I was just kind of like, yeah, ha, fucking bullshit. Like I treated everything. It was a big fucking joke. Well, I remember just thinking that, like, that this is all normal. Like, this is all, like, kind of like when I walked into detox. Well, that makes sense. And I'm getting worse, if you could even believe it. I'm just getting, every single freaking day, I'm getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And my last spree that I don't even remember, that I talked about in my last video, was a 4-day binge. Started on a Thursday night, went all the way through to a Monday. And I think on this weekend, if I'm remembering correctly, my normal $1,300 wasn't enough. I fucking pissed through $2,000. But anyway, that's not even the worst. I'm out with a girl that I don't even like, that's not my wife, making out with her in the middle of the fucking street for the entire island to see. I'm acting like a fucking asshole to everybody. I'm screaming at the parking lot guy. for whatever fucking reason. I'm fucking hollering at people. I'm just acting the fool. And then beyond that, I don't remember. I don't remember. Like, it's gone. You know? And somebody told me that they saw me, that I wasn't looking good, that I was sweating, and then they didn't see what happened to me after that. And I remember coming to in my car on Monday morning, literally covered in my own piss and vomit and blood. I must have taken a tumble somewhere. And I'm shaking, like my heart is fucking pounding out of my chest. I can barely breathe. I feel like I'm having a freaking goddamn heart attack. Like, not good. Like, I really feel like I almost died. Like, overdosed, because, I mean, I looked in my car, and and there were probably five little baggies of empty baggies of Coke. That's a lot. And I literally, my nose is running and fucking white shit's fucking dripping out of it. My head is pounding. I just stink of booze. That's all I can like smell and taste. And I managed to stumble up to my apartment. Well, before that though, before I stumbled up to my apartment, I'm laying in the car. And I'm fucking screaming at the top of my lungs in the car, and I'm fucking pounding on the center console, just begging God. I said, God, kill me or take it away. And this is the second time in my life I did this. Now, wasn't suicidal. I wasn't going to go kill myself or anything, but if God struck me dead in that moment, that would have been okay by me, because I was done. You know, that whole spiritual, physical, and moral bankruptcy is a real thing, and I was gone. There was nothing left in the tank. I was done. And I surrendered that day. And I begged God. I said, take it away or kill me. And I don't care what you believe. I know what I believe, and I know what happened. I heard a voice that was not my own, that was not my father's, that was not my internal monologue voice. And it's a voice that I've heard before, and it was my higher power, who I choose to call God. And he sounds like an old Italian grandfather. And he says to me, "Are you done? If you're done, it's over." And I said to him, "I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I've got nothing left." And literally, I didn't start to feel better, but literally, in that moment, the obsession was lifted. I did not want a drink. I did not want a drug. I didn't know what awaited me in my apartment with my wife or anything like that. I didn't know what kind of hell I was going to catch. And there's a picture that I'm going to post as the header of this, or the thumbnail of this video. But I went in to my apartment. My wife didn't really say a word to me. She kind of looked at me, and I went over to the whiteboard, the dry erase board that we had, and I grabbed that dry erase marker, and I wrote down 4/8/24, last fucking time. Since that day, I have not found the need to pick up a drink or a drug. I called my sponsor. At the time, he was a guy I knew from Zoom AA meetings, but became my sponsor that day. I called him, told him what was going on. I said, I've been on a bender. He goes, yeah, no shit. He goes, are you ready to work the steps? And it was fortunate, and my higher power at work again, because normally when I called him, he would be at work, at school, but for whatever reason they had a day off. And so he was right next to his phone, and he was able to pick up. And that was the beginning of the journey. 4/8/24. It was the beginning of the journey. I dove in feet first to the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. I dove in feet first to getting sober. I don't ever want to feel that shame, that guilt, that remorse ever again. All right, so that's where I will end this video tonight. I've got 2 more days. One day at a time. One day at a time, but I've got 2 more days until it's a full year, 4/8/24. Now it's almost 4/8/25. I still have not found it necessary to pick up a drink or a drug. So the next video, I know this has been a bit of a downer, but the next video is going to be talking about all the wonderful things that have happened to me in sobriety. Because it's a fucking year. Fuck yeah. Alright guys, thank you so much. I know this is a bit of a long one, but thank you so much. Please like, subscribe, share. Just want to get the message out there. Again, this channel's not monetized, never will be. If for some reason it ever does get monetized, it's not going to be for profit. It's going to go to help another sick and suffering alcoholic and addict. But at any rate, I hope this message reaches you. Hope this message reaches the newcomer. Hope this message reaches somebody who just needs to hear it. And if it even just reaches one person, just one, then it'll all have been worth it. Thanks.